So what we're trying to do today is give you a quick overview of some of the services that we offer as a company. Really, what we try to do is match your hiring needs to the application pool that we have as we go through and recruit Americans with disabilities for these jobs. One of the key things is, as we look at it, is attrition has always been a problem within the call center. It's always been a problem. It's only been exacerbated by the great economy that we have now today. And so how do you deal with that? And we really look at it as a cycle of how you go through that process in order to, after you lose somebody, what are the things and the costs associated with getting a qualified person back in that seat. You know, one of the other parts of this, and a lot of people have mentioned this about being remote, you can actually recruit all across the company. Go back and forth with these. This guy for a second. So we're an employer in 44 states. And so from that, we can go and find you the people that you need. And we can handle managing those people for you. And then finally, we really have to take a close look as we go forward at being more flexible in the way we employ our agents. I mean, it's full-time is always great. People look at that, keep costs down, less people to manage. But as we go forward and try to attract better quality agents in a more diverse pool, we have to start looking at other options, whether it's part-time, micro shifts, split shifts, those kinds of things. Okay. We talked about this, we can go quickly through this. You know, again, we're a 501c3 company. We've been in business for 20 years, and it's true, we kind of feel like we've been piloting this for a long time. I've been in this industry for a while, and I can remember trying to convince people to go remote. This is the challenges were always there. The need was not so much. And we spent a lot of time talking about cost savings and things like that as a way to convince people. It really, as you saw from some of the stats that Michelle showed yesterday, it really isn't down to that anymore. And part of it is, again, the economy and what it's done to us. So, a couple interesting stats, and I am kind of a stat guy, but it is, you know, the CDC released a report last year, and they updated it from a couple of years ago. 1 in 4 Americans are disabled. 1 in 4. We work very, very closely with the Social Security Administration, and there's over 50 million Americans on SSI and SSDI, and those are the people that we serve. And so, at the end of the day, we all know somebody who's disabled. The key thing to that is disabilities aren't always visible. You may not see somebody with a cane. That doesn't mean they're not disabled. So you have to think of that as you go through this process and with how you deal with people. And a lot of you have done this, but it is something that people sometimes don't think about. But these are the people that we serve. These are the people that we work with and try to give them fulfilling jobs. So, at the end of the day, we do a lot of things at NTI. We have a couple different business models, but at the end of the day, we're a staffing agency. So, we're fairly typical. We have 3 models that we go to business on. The first is shared administrative services, and that's really where we do share it. You know, we'll always do the recruiting and some of our own training before you even talk to any of our people. But in the shared administrative services, I'm done. That's not good. In the shared administrative services model, what we also do is we handle all the HR, the offer letters, terminations, job performance, those kinds of things. And we also do the payroll, because as I mentioned before, we are an employer in 44 states. So we can handle all that. We know the legality, we know the tax laws, we handle the actual distribution of the paychecks and the W-2s and all those things. Temp to perm, fairly typical. You hire somebody, they stay on our payroll, we manage that for you. You decide to hire them, make them permanent employee for yourself. Depending on the time frame, there's a slight conversion fee for that. The direct hire model, again, just what it says. You know, you come, you hire people, you pay us a small fee to hire that person, they go directly on your payroll. Been in business a long time, you know, and so we've served a lot of different industries. We have a lot of clients in a disparate space. We've probably seen, if you're in an industry, we've probably worked with you before. So it really is, there's some challenges in each one of them. One of the things we do, I'll talk a little bit about it in a bit. You know, we work closely with the U.S. government. That has its own challenges, but we run a call center for the IRS. And that's why I say we have different models. We actually run the call center. And so we do the people, the process, the technology. So we live what you breathe every day. We do the same things you do. So that makes us a little bit different in a staffing agency perspective is we do your jobs too. You don't try to do your jobs, we just try to do ours. This is the tough part. I mean, the call center jobs aren't easy. The economy is so strong today, it makes it even harder to keep people. One of the things that we do at NTI, so we bring in a lot of people to come through our process. And what we try to do every step of the way is tell them how difficult this job is. Because what you're probably finding out as you recruit remotely, everybody wants to work from home, and they see that and they apply. Well, that happens to us too. We look at that and say, you know, people come in. But the folks we serve, they have enough challenges in life. So we try to be really honest about what these jobs are like. And all along the way, we're demonstrating what happens as part of that. So it's really, you know, by the time we get about 1,000 applications a month, by the time the people go through and actually go through all our classes and get into our applicant pool where they can apply for jobs, it's really only about 25% of those people. And they mostly self-select out. Because I'll talk a little bit about our training process as we go through this, but we really try to support people and we really try to give them the tools they need. So, you know, the other part is, when you look at this, from an application perspective, you know, the competition that comes involved in it is really strong. This is what I was talking about, the cycle of attrition. This is how we look at it. You lose an employee, you start posting a job, you know, as part of that, then you do the interviews, the job offer, the training, then you get a functional employee. And I'll put quotes around functional, because you're probably replacing somebody that has been with you for a little bit of time. And so you're losing that job coach, you're losing that content manager, you know, and you're bringing somebody in off the street or off the seats, you know. So it's really, there's more to it than just that. And if you look at some of the, you know, stats, and it's different for every company, but on average, it costs about $4,000 to find a new employee. And in the call center space, you know, on average, it costs about $5,000 to train them. Now, you might have different numbers, but when you start to look at those numbers and say, geez, what is that really impact to losing that person? It starts to really generate some thought process on how you deal with that going forward. So we really, when we look at this, we look at our agents and we say, look, we have some real sticking power. We've got some agents that really, you know, once they learn how to manage their disability, they don't have a lot of opportunities for employment. So they get these jobs and they stay there. So you've got low turnover, you've got loyal employees. Most of the people who work for us are part-timers. We do a couple of different models. Probably about 85% of people who start working for us are part-time. Probably about another 10% grow into full-time. As they learn how to manage their disability and they can sit there and start to work more hours, they do that. About 5%, so one of our clients is the EEOC. They hire people directly from us onto the U.S. government payroll, but it's only full-time. Every year, right before they run out of money, they come over and say, do you got 2 more heads for us? And we know they're coming, so we spend some time through the summertime looking for the people that can do those jobs. But again, it's only about 5% of the people that we actually employ as part of it. Our folks come with a home office setup. About 50% of our clients ship the home office to people. The other part, sit there and they use their own computers, of which we'll sit there and understand what your business requirements are for those computers and make sure that everybody we send you has that type of computer and setup that they can work for you. So we make sure that happens. All of them have been trained and NTI certified. We have a 3-day course that people go through to actually, first we try to teach them is, look, this is, up until now, we've told you what it's like to be a call center agent. And here is what it really is. Now, I don't know if Terry is still there, Terry Rival. Terry was a client of NTI in a future life, in a past life actually. And we learned something from Terry and his team, and we've taken it and integrated it into our training. We're a very flexible company. If we can learn something and change, we will. But Terry and his team had an interesting idea is, once they decided they were going to hire a group of NTI agents, they put them through their own training, and then as part of that training, they had what they called shock and awe. And so they would play actual phone calls. Now this wasn't an easy job. This was a DSL break and fix. So people were calling up and saying, my DSL isn't working, we need to get this thing working now. And so some of those calls were animated. And so, they went through and they had those discussions, and had those calls, and some of them were good, some of them were more animated. But at the end of the day, what Terry and the team were trying to do was, here's what it's like to be a call center agent. Yeah, you might have was successful in NTI's training, you might have passed our training, but are you really ready for it? And that's what we've tried to integrate into our training, because we don't want somebody to be surprised the first day they go to your training class and find out what your calls are going to be like. It's like, oh my God, people are really like this? And the reality is, yes they are. Because not a lot of people call centers and say, geez, Alan, I'm calling because I just wanted to say service was great and thank you for being there. If anybody's got that call, please see me afterwards. But it's just like that. And the other part of this is, our agents, the average age of our agents is about 44 years old. So they've got very unique qualities. They've got a lot of life experience. We have agents that are, all over the map. I mean, high school education, college education, MBAs, PhDs, because disability does not know financial status, your educational status, your past positions. It just hits the person it hits. And it's how they deal with it going forward. And that's what we try to do, is help them deal. This is one of our agents on the IRS. I mean, she's been with us since 2003 when we started this contract. 2004. We started the contract in 2003. It's really a challenging job. It's not an easy job. It's the forms and pub line. So if you call the forms and public, the IRS today looking for a form or a pub, you'll talk to one of our agents. And nobody calls up and says, I need form XYZ. Everybody says things like, I need that form, I was part of a trust and it changed, we added a person. What's the added a person trust fund for that? And so people gotta look this stuff up. It's almost like an online Google in some ways for these folks. So it's a challenging job. They've got a lot of knowledge bases they have to deal with every time. But these folks, again, they love this job, and we've got about 150 people working right now. And at the end of tax season, it goes to about 75 year-round. So what is it, when you hire an NTI agent, a lot of the things you get are the same as if you hire your own, if you have your own remote agents today. You have savings on equipment and office space. The interesting part about NTI agents are, and it's not so applicable to those that work part-time, but those that actually go full-time, almost all of them, probably about 95% of them are on Medicaid. So they don't need health care. And they're more than likely they'll stay there because as part of their Social Security benefits. So it really is an interesting benefit. nationwide employment. We've talked about that before. The quality is high. Again, it's these people not only come from a more diverse background, which you'll find if you actually go out and do nationwide hiring anyways yourself, but it's also, you know, we have, you know, VPs of IT that have become disabled over their career and they start working for us. You know, so it's that kind of pool. I mean, if you come and say, Alan, I need 5 VPs of IT, I might have a little problem. But, you know, generally, if you give this the kind of experience that you need, we're going to match that to it. Again, we work with a lot of micro schedule flexibility. And here, like I'll use our IRS contract as an example. We do a lot of what is called jumpers. And so we'll have, everybody has to keep their chat window open all day. And so even if they're not online, and again, most of our folks are, you know, they're work at home, I mean, they live at home and they're disabled, can't get out. So they're looking at it from the perspective, okay, I just have my chat window open. And if we see a call spike that we know is happening, we can call them, we can chat with them and say, hey, can you come online? 0 commute time. They're willing to come on for an hour, maybe 2, in order to be able to do that. So, you know, those kinds of things are a real benefit when you have work-at-home people, because there's not the hour drive into the office. There's not the, well, I have to commit this person to 4 hours of work. You know, and it goes along with the same things with micro-schedules and split shifts. We have a couple clients who do both. And so part of it is, especially with split shifts, you know, when you have to make outbound calls, or you know you're going to have, especially towards, you know, a seasonal position, you know the call volumes are going up at particular times of the day, but you don't want to have, you want to have a person work maybe, say, noon time and then dinner time. Guess what? You know, that's the kind of thing people that work from home are more than willing to do. Our folks need to schedule a lot of appointments, so that also fits nicely into their schedule. Okay, the obligatory client quote here. We've been with the IRS for a long time, and you know they're kind of a challenging client, as the U.S. government tends to be. I've met a couple of folks here over the last day and a half, and we also have either worked with the IRS or somebody else. And it's just that, you know, when we look at them, you know, they measure us on quality of service, and you know that quality of service is, you know, how accurate are we, you know, how long are the calls, and you know, schedule adherence. Do we have the right people on the phones at the right time? And we have to meet that. They munge that number together and they come up with a percentage. And so we have to exceed 92% every single month. The last 5 years, we've been at 96%. And again, part of the reason why we're there and at that level is because the stickiness, thank you, the stickiness of our employees. They know their job. And so when you have people, senior people like that, who can do the job and understand it and not have to get coached as part of it, you can deliver that kind of quality. And it really is nice. So when we look at this, you know, we do a couple things that, you know, probably you don't see in a lot of staffing agencies. When we go through the recruitment process, right out of the bat, we assign a mentor to each one of these folks. And the reason we do that is our process internally is a little complicated. We'll go through that in a minute. It's a little complicated, a lot of things to do, because we want to prepare these people for you, right? And so, but at the same time, that person's they build relationships. And part of their job is to help these people understand the challenges of what environment they're trying to get into, but also to help them exceed what they're doing, and making sure that they can actually succeed on the job, right? And so with these people, we actually build relationships and stay together for years. You know, they don't interfere with your HR if they go to work with you, but they may be there as a confidant. We look at skills assessment. You know, we do pre-screening, we do voice quality tests, all those kinds of things. They need to meet our standards before they can get into our applicant. Because again, the last thing we want to do is see these folks fail. And we know that we're not going to be successful unless you're successful. So our agents need to meet the same metrics that you define for everybody else in your call center space. They interview for specific jobs, they get into our applicable, they apply for jobs. We then match your job requirements against their skills and only send forward the people that will meet your needs. We do, from an HR perspective, we do the job offer and the onboarding part of that, if you're part of the shared administrative services. And then again, we say this, and we say this still available for the first 90 days, but there are people that they still talk to all the time. But we'll check in the first 30 days, how's it going? Next month, how's it going? Next month, how's it going? Making sure they're successful. Our human resources team and the e-mentors both work together to really help and make it easy to use. Our HR team are experts in the laws of ADA. If you've got any questions about that or accommodations or anything like that, we'll work with you. In general, the only accommodation our folks need is maybe some scheduling stuff, and they want to work from home. We do the job coaching, we talked about that from an e-mentor perspective. And then our finance team, again, we're an employer in 44 states. And so we understand the tax laws and those kinds of things. And the legal things that need to happen, nexus and all those things, as to make that work. So we've got that part nailed. We've been doing it since 1995, so we feel really comfortable that we're going to meet your needs if you're going to be there. So at the end of the day, this is one of our clients. They're a small B2B company. They came to us in 2017. They wanted us to augment their staff. They hired about 10 people. It's a great company, very family-oriented company. They took our folks in, they treated them like they were family, and it was really great. So in the last year and a half that those folks have been in, I think only one person has left. They really loved that job. And back in last June, they came to us and they said, look, we're going to move. They were up in Northern California in a college town, and they were really having problems with attrition, because they had college-age kids coming in and saying, yeah, I want to work this job, and then graduate, summer came, they left. And so they said, we're going to move a couple towns over, see if they, we'll get lower rent, those kinds of things. But what we really want to do is we want to make all of our call center folks remote, and we want to do it with NTI folks. So as their in-house agents left, they replaced them with NTI folks. So today, they entirely have an NTI-run call center. It's about 20 people, and they handle all these calls for them. And it really is a testimonial for these folks working with us and understanding the challenges, but also their desire and need to go remote. So they made that happen. Couldn't have done this without Kate and Mike. They did a phenomenal job, putting this together and working the booth outside. So it's been a pleasure. And it's nice, I've known Michelle for a long time, and it's nice to come here because just the energy that we see and the need, it's really incredible. And I've been in this business a long time. I was an industry analyst for a while. And, I can remember trying to convince people to do remote. And as I look around the room, it's people now going to it, not just for business needs, but also because it's the right thing for the people to work for, and that's really good. Okay. Questions?